AEW All In 2024 results, y'all. This was a historic, a magical, an emotional event. Something in which I think everyone going into it kind of expected. Bryan Danielson, Swerve Strickland, obviously headline, but there was so much more to this show than the main event, which was special. And we're going to get it all into it in this video because there were surprises up and down the card. There were surprises in which we thought was going to happen. There were surprises in which we didn't know was going to happen. And it was an absolute banger of an event. I cannot highly recommend this show enough. And let's just get into it because the pre-show, well, it was there. Quickly, Rocky Romero, Leo Rush, Action Andrade, the Martins, Kip Sabian, Tommy Billington, and Kyle Fletcher went over Private Party, Daivari, Anthony Ogogo, Singh, Jay Lethal, Alex Reynolds, and John Silver in a nothing match. Willow Nightingale and Ashihi went over Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway in a mixed tag team match with Willow picking up the stipulation in which they will have it all out. Her and Chris Statlander, they're going to work a match it all out on September 7th. So they built to that. And then to wrap up this pre-show, that was just nothing there. And a 10-man tag, it was Dustin Rhodes, Sammy Guevara, the Von Erichs, and Shibata going over Brian Cage, Cobb, Lido, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett. It was there. Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Opening up the main card, Trios Champions. Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne. They put the titles on the line against House of Black, the Bang Bang Gang, Pac, Claudio Castagnoli, and Wheeler Yuta, a ladder match. This was as advertised. A bunch of spots, a bunch of wild moves and such. There was even outside interference from Mother Wayne using hairspray of all things. And actually at one point, you had Pac using the hairspray on Mother Wyatt as well. Now, the finish was interesting because Cage, he hit a spear to Buddy Matthews through a table. And he actually hit his face pretty hard on that. But Killswitch managed to help him up, climb up the ladder, only for Pac to come up, climb the ladder, and kick Christian Cage right in his face. And he fell on Killswitch, and Pac was able to get the championship. So that was pretty cool. And a nice way to kick off the show with a title change. Now, we have Mariah May challenging Women's World Champion Toni Storm for the title. I was actually surprised that this match went as early as it did, considering it was one of the pillars of this card in terms of the build-up and the promotion and everything like that. Any ad that you heard or saw on YouTube, it was always built around this match, and rightfully so, but they got the co-opener. Very, very good stuff. Luther got involved, but we all knew Mariah May was going to walk out as new Women's World Champion, and that's exactly what happened, because there was even a spot where May went for the championship while the referee was distracted, but Luther got it instead, flipped her off just for good measure. But Windstorm went to hit May with her shoe. She just simply couldn't do it. That allowed May to roll her up for two before hitting knee strikes and then hitting the pile driver. An iconic finisher of Toni Storm's to pick up the win. And now we have a new Women's World Champion. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they run this match back at All Out, considering they're only 2 weeks away from that. And you're going to need some notable matches on that card, so I'm curious to see where they go with that. Look, he got back the FTW title for Chris Jericho. Of course, there was outside interference from the likes of Big Bill and Brian Keith. In fact, Taz, who was on commentary, actually got so mad that he decided, you know what, I'm going to get involved in this, because after seeing his son get beat down by a cricket bat and cricket balls and barbed wire and everything like that, which Big Bill actually went through a table that had barbed wire on it, Taz decided that he was going to put the Taz submission on Keith, while Hook had the same submission on Chris Jericho, and that was the finish. So a feel-good moment for the father and son combination. Now, let's get to the first surprise of the night. Oh, Jamie Hayter, she returned for a little impromptu segment with Soraya. I forgot to mention that. Jamie Hayter, she'd been out for over a year now due to a serious injury and came back with a new look. Good for her. So we had Tag Team Champions and Young Bucks put the titles on the line against FTR and the Acclaimed, and this was a lot of fun. It wasn't, in my opinion, it didn't live up to necessarily the hype that I think a lot of people, including myself, put on it, but it was still a pretty good match. Down the stretch, they did this. So Caster did a BT trigger with Matt Jackson. Then he did the Shatter Machine with Cash Wheeler. But in the end, after Harwood, he avoided a move and his tag team partner Wheeler ran out of the ring with an outside dive. It was Matt and Dax who did a flurry of roll-ups before the Bucks hit the BTE trigger to Dax for the win to retain the tag team titles. Post-match, grizzled young veterans, former WWE star, or tag team rather, they showed back up after working FTR this year on an episode of Collision. They had a stare down with the Bucks before taking out FTR and standing tall in the ring. So I would expect grizzled young veterans and FTR to be on All Out. And I would be surprised if we learn to hear either a part-time deal or a full-time deal for grizzled young veterans going with AEW going forward. Now let's get to the surprises, because the Casino Gauntlet match, where the winner was guaranteed a World Heavyweight title shot of their choosing anytime, any place they wanted to, well, it was newsworthy, because not only did we have Nigel McGuinness be a entrant, working his first match since 2011. We had Zack Sabre Jr., who had just won the New Japan G1 Climax tournament. Jeff Jarrett was a surprise. Hangman Page was a surprise. We had Mark Briscoe. He was in there. Christian Cage was in there. And, of course, former WWE star Ricochet, who had... We all knew Ricochet was coming into AEW. We knew that he had been signed. I mean, Fightful broke that news on Friday, I believe. And we knew he was playing for this show. So that was not a huge surprise, but he had a pretty good effort. And a lot more faster, I noticed, than he was in WWE. Now, here came the finish. So Killswitch came out as Luchasaurus, which everyone's like, oh, he's going to turn on Christian Cage. And it's like, oh, no, you're wrong. Because Luchasaurus, Killswitch, whatever you want to call him, he had a choke slam to Kyle O'Reilly before putting Cage on him for the win. So Killswitch does the dirty work for Christian Cage, and they walk out, and Christian Cage is your, new number one contender, essentially, for the World Heavyweight title. I'm curious to see what they do that. They didn't give a lot of details in terms of how this stip actually works, but I digress. Another surprise, Daniel Garcia. He came back because it was Will Ospreay challenging MJF for the international, or in this case, the American title. It was not as good as their first match, I thought, but it was a heck of a match. And what happened was there was a referee spot. Will Ospreay accidentally knocked down the referee, and Daniel Garcia came out wearing a mask, and he punched MJF in the face. And MJF, well, he didn't appreciate that. He was in shock. He was upset. It was Daniel Garcia coming back. Will Ospreay was able to capitalize. He hit the Tiger Driver at E1 and walked away with a win. So that sets up Daniel Garcia, MJF at All Out. I'm going to presume that should be a heck of a match. And I like the fact that, look, we knew Will Ospreay was going to get his revenge. We just didn't know how. We knew he was going to reclaim the title. We just didn't know how. And now we do. And I like the way that they did that. I thought they set it up very well and everything accordingly. Mercedes Moné, she put the TBS title on the line against Britt Baker in a match. This is probably the most anticipated match for me on this card, and it delivered. These girls went at it. The first half, it was just Moné just beating her down, and Britt was just selling, and then Britt made her comeback. And I don't know why, but I sense that Britt still has a little bit of ring rust that she needs to shake off. Camille, they did a spot where Britt acted like Camille had hit her with the championship and did the whole Eddie Guerrero, he hit me spot, she hit me spot, and got kicked out of ringside. But in the end, it was Moné who hit the money maker for the win. Now, co-main event, coffin match, AEW TNT champion Jack Perry putting it on the line against Darby Allin. This was interesting. This was a very quick, hardcore, violent match. They used various gimmicks, skateboards, and real glass. Think about this. Darby Allin came out to the ring with thumbtacks planted in his face. Yeah. There was one point where Allin took this nasty spot where he was pushed off the top rope and he landed on a chair to the floor. There was one point where Perry tied Allen's hands together and pushed him off the stage through two tables. In the end, though, it was Perry putting him in a body bag and throwing him into the coffin for hitting a knee strike for the 1-2-3. This is where things picked up because the Young Bucks came out with a cans seemingly going to set Darby Allin on fire, and then Sting came out with his baseball bat and laid out the heels. So that was that. Main event, AEW World Heavyweight Champion, Swerve Strickland, put the title on the line against Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson's family was sitting front row. Brie Danielson, or Bella, that's still weird to refer her to as that. And their 2 children, they were at ringside. Somehow, after a spot where Bryan was essentially, he got hit with an AA on the apron, Prince Nana put down a ring bell, and he landed on the back of his head, and somehow that cut him open on his forehead because, of course, it's a Bryan Danielson match, so, of course, we have to have blood, even though that spot made no sense whatsoever, and I digress. After that, though, it was a masterpiece. It was cinema. It was near falls after near falls. It was just, it was a masterpiece. It was everything in which you want to have a pro wrestling match. I love this match. We had at one point Hangman Page, he came out. He distracted Swerve. It stopped his momentum. Security came out and put an end to it. They didn't get physical. Hangman was taken to the back. And then Bryan, he fought back. He had a series of running knee strikes and then locked in the crossface for the win. And that is how we went off the air for AEW All In London 2024. What a banger of a pay-per-view. I love the show. Go out of your way. Check it out. That main event. Oh, so good. So good, so good, so good. Let me know down in the comments there below, what do y'all think about this show? What was your favorite match on the card? I'd like to know. Thank y'all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.